Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we take another look at the Astra Militarum, and more specifically the Catachans, led by none other than Colonel Straken, as they take on the Orks during the Third War for Armageddon. Now the events we are discussing today are from the short story A Hero's Death by Toby Frost, and I have to say it's a pretty great little read. I'll put a link to the short story on the Black Library website in the description as always. And like I always say, I really recommend you read the novel for yourself first, because not only do you get the most enjoyment out of it this way, but we also help to support the great Black Library and Games Workshop, because without them we wouldn't have all this great lore to talk about. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. "Get down," Colonel Straken yelled. The charges detonated. The Armageddon jungle seemed to burst apart, hurling itself at him. For a long second, foliage and chips of bark rained down on his bionics and his skin. The explosion rang in his ears. Then he shouted, "Smoke!" There was a hollow pop of grenade launchers and a hiss of smoke. "Move it, Catachans," he called. "Do I have to do everything myself?" The platoon advanced, a rapid scurrying between rocks and fallen trees, ducked low with their lasguns raised. A few had slung their guns and pulled the long knives of their homeworld. Straken took the centre. The Orks would be dug in deep. The blast would have killed a few, but not enough. "You never can kill enough," he thought. "Captain Montara," he called. "Get up on the left flank." "On it," she replied. He saw her briefly, a bulky shape slipping through the smoke, her hair cut down to black stubble and an aquila shaved into it. Two men with shotguns followed her, one with a Voxset lurching on his back. Straken plunged further into the smoke. Ork heavy weapons fire barked out of the swirling haze, a chattering pulse of light. Bullets hit tree trunks and tore them open, howling through the air over the Catachans. "Move it," Straken called. "Shut that gun up." Broad hulking figures appeared in the smoke ahead. Half obscured, Straken glimpsed red eyes and teeth like tusks under crude metal helmets. Lasfire caught one of the Orks and spun it, sending it to the ground. Straken raised his shotgun and fired at the other. It grunted and ducked out of view. Injured, but not dead. "They've left their camp," Straken thought. "They're in the trees." Doc Hollister appeared on Straken's right, medikit slung across his body, a big grin on his lined face. "Got 'em scared now," Hollister said. Roars and grunts came from the undergrowth and flanks as well as from ahead. "No, just angry," Straken replied. An Ork burst out of the foliage on the right. It howled as if on fire, arms flailing, mouth swathed in foam. It wore a vest of grimy metal plates. Straken blasted it in the thigh. The Ork went down, cleaver bouncing out of its grip. Snarling, it reached for a pistol. Straken worked the slide of his shotgun and aimed, shooting it in the neck. The Ork fell and Straken leapt after it. He stabbed down with his knife as the beast tried to rise, but the Ork pulled a cleaver from its belt and blocked his blade. For a moment, they strained against each other, a contest of sheer brute force. But the alien strength seemed to break, and Straken's knife slid through its throat into the earth behind. Gunfire roared from the left. Straken threw himself down and fired prone. He glimpsed a tusked face, and a body dropped into the undergrowth. Straken leaped up and rushed down the length of the huge fallen log, turned and saw Guardsman Hardek lying on the ground. Wooden spikes stuck out of his shoulder, and a pack of scrawny creatures pinned him down, jabbering as they prodded the spikes. Straken was on them before they could turn. His shotgun blasted the first three aliens apart. Their comrades turned, but too slowly, and Straken's metal fist clamped down on the biggest Gretchen's head. Bone shattered. The others squealed and ran into the trees. Straken fired, and a thin scream answered him. He shouted for the medic to help Hardek and pushed on toward the Ork camp. In a clearing just before the camp itself, an immense orc raged and bellowed. Half a dozen guardsmen surrounded it, pouring las fire into the orc's hide. It was riddled with wounds, kept alive it seemed by fury alone. Wild blows set up a cloud of chopped foliage. "Take it," Straken cried, and he added his shotgun to the las fire. Slowly, the brute sank down, grunting. It collapsed onto its knees, half hidden by plants as if drowning beneath a green sea, then slumped onto all fours. For a moment, Straken could hear its hard, loud breathing. Then came the inevitable shot, and the sound of a huge body striking the earth. Sudden quiet. Straken heard Hollister's voice. "I'll just tie the bandage off," and a groan of pain answering it. Captain Montara looked over her shoulder and made a throat-cutting gesture. She meant that the enemy were all dead. Oh man, Straken is just relentless here. He's mowing through orcs left and right. How could you not follow this guy into battle? That is the leader you want in any war. Man, I know I've said it before, but I'll say it again here. We need a 40k Catachan movie. I mean, come on, it's not that hard. They made it in the 80s with Arnie pretty much. Just repeat with a 40k skin. Now, I've always liked the background for Colonel Straken, but this was the first time I'd ever read him in a story, and I've got to say, he's a great character. Just no nonsense, on with the job, exactly what you'd expect from a Catachan commander. Now, with the heat of battle over, a coded message comes over the Vox to the command squad operator, and of course, there's been a change of plan. The Orks have gained ground inside Infernus Hive, overrunning Perimeter 56. General Beran of the Mordian 106th had been believed slain with his entire regiment in the last Ork offensive, but now they've received word he still lives, albeit injured. Now, Straken and his men have no idea what Perimeter 56 is and don't particularly care. What they do care about though is their new orders. Infiltrate the hive, find General Beran and his men, and get the general out. So they waste no time in heading through the jungle towards the hive, which in itself is no easy journey. But these are Catachans we're talking about. This is a stroll before breakfast to them. And with silence, they make their way towards the hive through the jungle, with the sound of war and gunfire barking in the distance. Ultimately, of course, they reach the hive and find the breaching point the Orks made to gain entry to the bottom levels. The hole in the wall was big enough for a Baneblade tank to pass through. It made him feel wary, a sense of being outside his natural hunting ground that no jungle, no matter how hostile, could give him. "That's it," he said, and motioned to the command squad to follow him. They were 45 meters from the hole when the Orks opened fire. Lights flared in the hole, bullets roared, and 4 men were cut down in half a second. Corporal Jenks was hit by some kind of mounted gun and blown to pieces. "Take cover," Straken bellowed and threw himself down, reaching for a grenade with his steel hand. Eden's squad darted back behind a ruined truck. A great howl echoed from the wall and massive aliens rushed out from the hole, holding axes and machetes. Straken pulled the plasma pistol from his hip and snapped 3 shots into the first pair of Orks. An Ork leapt onto a ruined buggy, heaving a heavy machine gun up after it. Las guns cracked and its head burst. The alien toppled backwards out of view. Straken risked a glance out of cover and saw more Orks running down from the hole. He raised a grenade to his mouth and paused for a moment to let the aliens get closer. Straken pulled the pin out with his teeth. He counted 1, 2, and hurled the bomb with his metal arm. It hit the ground, bounced, and exploded in mid-air. Several of the brutes were killed, but more importantly, it made the rest of them pause. "Come on," Straken shouted. "Do I have to do everything myself?" Man, this guy's like a one-man wrecking crew here. Is he this good on the tabletop? I'd love to see what an Adeptus Astartes, a space marine, would think of a normal human such as Straken. The guy's about as badass as you can get without being elevated to the superhuman levels of the Space Marines. Man, that would be a great scene to read. The Catachans rose up around him and charged in. Straken hacked down one Ork and put a plasma blast straight through a second. His men brought the aliens down with knives and lasgun butts. Gunfire rattled out of the hole, mowing down 3 men. But a missile streaked out of the Catachan line and burst in the gap, blasting Orks out of cover. Fire came from the flank. Montara's squad ripped into the enemy from the side. A few Orks ran back into the dark. Most charged forward when they realised that their cover was no more use. A few fell steps later. Eden approached. His knife was bloody, and he held 2 long teeth in his other fist. "Ambush," he said. Straken nodded. "Let's go. They'll bring up others if they know we're here." The Catachans moved in silently, picking their way through the rubble and the wreckage that the Orks had left behind. Straken sent out scouts to check the edges. "Emperor," Eden said. "Look at that." The explosion that had blasted through the wall had exposed several layers of the hive, as if the front had been ripped off a gigantic hotel, revealing the rooms and lives behind. Straken gazed upwards, seeing different levels, the narrow warrens of hab zones, the halls that served as chapels and factories, canteens and recreation areas, even what looked like a mechanic's yard crammed with a dozen armoured vehicles. The entrance was graffitied with dozens of Ork symbols. "Place looks infested," Montara said. "No wonder these Mordian guys are pinned down." "Keep moving," Straken said. "Go quietly. From here on, use your knives." Oh man, what a great place to stop it there. The Catachans are just so badass. They exude this kind of aura that's not matched quite so well by other regiments within the Astra Militarum, in my opinion. Cue all Steel Legion fanboys, I have no doubt, but you get what I mean. Can you imagine facing Straken and Sly Marbo in the same battle? I mean, you might as well just give up right then and there. Just them two versus your entire army, it's over. Now, I don't know if there are any stories that have Straken meeting Marbo, but that would be something I need to read. If there's not, Black Library, what on earth are you waiting for? And it's great to have a mention of the Mordians as well. All these old edition regiments that we can't quite purchase anymore, getting mentioned still in the story. I really hope we get a re-release of all the other iconic regiments one day soon. I really do. And man, how much do I need the updated Catachan regiment sprue? The second you do that, GW, I am starting that Catachan army, I promise. We always get mentions of female troopers now. It's about time we got them included on the sprues for the Imperial Guard. And of course there's only one man to lead that Catachan force, and that is Straken himself. Like I said earlier, I'd never read a story with him as a character in before, but man is he a great one to read, especially as this story continues. But what did you guys think? Are you a fan of the Catachans? And what about Colonel Straken? Do you like the attitude of the Catachans, or do you think they come across as a bit too much sometimes? But that's it for today, guys. As always, leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. A huge thank you to all my subscribers. Your support really means a lot to me, it truly does. And if you're new, then please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.